Hi there and welcome to tutorial 44. There's been a bit of a gap since the last tutorial because I've been involved with one or two of my other interests, which is arranging for big band and arranging for string quartet. And Dave and I have been doing a little bit of playing with a couple of top session players, British session players, so that was all good fun. But today we're going to look at a few Genesis tracks, two Genesis tracks in fact. One is the Firth of Fifth from the 1973 album Selling England by the Pound. And this is the sort of brassy sound that Tony Banks would have used, etc. And he used an ARP Pro Soloist at that stage, which is a preset ARP synth, which is really useful for live because you can obviously change settings quickly. But I've recreated that sound on the Studiologic Sledge, so we're going to go over to an initial setting, which gives us, yes, here we are, one oscillator, and it's on a pulse wave at the moment, but we want it on a Sawtooth Waveform, and we want 16 foot. We're also going to put in oscillator 2 on a Sawtooth Waveform 16 foot and detune it ever so slightly. Yeah, -3 there. Okay, so to create the brassy sound, we're going to move over to the filter section. And we've got a low pass 24 dB slope filter, cutoff 81. There we are. Resonance 28. And key track is unchanged at 64. And to create the sort of wow of the brassy sound, we're going to introduce a bit of filter amount here, plus 28. And because of the default settings on the Studiologic Sledge, it comes up with a percussive sound, which is attack 0, decay something like 50. But we're going to alter the attack to 57. There we are, and decay to 61. Sustain 0, release 28. And in the amplifier envelope, the velocity is 0, the attack time is 0, sustain 127, release 32. So all of the kind of shape to the sound comes from the filter envelope, but there is a little bit of release on there just to give it a tiny bit of ambience to the sound, and also to stop it from doing like a clicky kind of effect. If I'd reduce that to 0, you can't hear the click, but we'll put it back anyway. Okay, so a bit of reverb on there, and reverb 67. The time is 67, should I say? And the level is 63. So that's our sound, etc. And because I've created a little track to go with that, we'll add that to the track and then move on to the next sound. Okay, so the next sound is an organ sound, and the organ sound that I've got here is this one. Now, Tony Banks used a variety of organs in his long period with Genesis. He used Hammond organs. The L100 was one of his favourites, so was the L122. But on Selling England by the Pound, he used one of Hammond's early transistor models, the T102. And to recreate that sound, I have, well, let's do that. Let's go over to an initial setting, and that gives us our pulse wave on that oscillator. We're actually going to use a Sawtooth waveform, which is a bit unusual to use on an organ sound, because it's really the wrong waveform. But in actual fact, is it the wrong waveform? Because in a Sawtooth, you have all the natural harmonic series in there, which kind of emulates the drawbars on an organ a little bit. but of course we have to filter that as well. We're going to use that on a 16-foot pitch and put oscillator 2 on an 8-foot pitch, and we're going to use a sine wave. Now we don't want any frequency modulation by oscillator 1, so that's the sound there. And now we're going to filter that. So 24 dB per octave low pass, cut off 78. Okay, resonance 0, key track 96. Okay, now I'm just going to compare that with the actual setting that we've got, just to make sure. 642. And I think I've done something wrong there, because yeah, that's a 4-foot pitch. So we'll go back there, and we've got 16-foot pitch there, 4-foot pitch here. That's the kind of sound we want. Okay, and we'll just catch up there because the filter setting's correct and the resonance is correct. And we're going to use the default amplifier envelope. We don't need any filter envelope in that. And to create the sort of swirly effect, there we are, we're going to use the chorus, and the rate is 29. There we are, and depth 15. So this gives us our kind of rotary Leslie type sound. Leslie was the firm that made the rotating speakers for Hammond. And we're just going to put a bit of reverb on there. Reverb time 85. There we are. And level 22. So that's our organ sound, and I'll add that to the track as well, and then we'll hear what that sounds like. Right, so the next track that we're going to have a look at is Follow You, Follow Me from the 1978 album Then There Were Three. And he probably would use the ARP Pro Soloist again, but he did at that time have an ARP 2600 as well, which is a modular synth, or semi-modular, should I say. But the sound that we're looking for is the one that goes... that one. I'll show you how I recreated that sound. So we'll go over to an initial setting, and oscillator 1 is 8 foot Sawtooth. Oscillator 2 is square. That's also 8 foot. Detune -3. There we are. Okay, and oscillator 3, we're just going to add oscillator 3 in there for a little bit of unique FM sound. So, in fact, I'll just show you oscillator 3. At the moment, it's just on a sine wave. The FM amount by oscillator 2 is 65. That just adds in some nice harmonics to the sound, but we're going to back that off in the mixer. We're going to back that off to 84. There we are. So there's just a little touch of that in the sound. And then we'll go over to the filter section. Okay, so we're using a low pass filter, 24 dB per octave, and the cutoff frequency is 90. There we are. Resonance 0, key track 86. That means that the filter opens up a little bit at the top end of the keyboard. There's no filter envelope at all, and 0 velocity. All we need from the default setting in the amplifier envelope is a bit of release time, release 73. Now, not only does the release create a bit of ambience, but it also helps in the other little bit on the other side of the keyboard, which is to put it in mono mode and have a glide setting of 36. Now, glide is another term for portamento, which is a kind of a slide in between the notes. We also need a bit of reverb on there, and reverb time is 62. There we are, just about 62, and level 64, that's smack in the middle. So that's creating the sound that we need. The organ sound is the same one as we just used on the Firth of Fifth. So when I add those two sounds to the track, it's going to sound a bit like this.